Hi, I'm Becky Robinson, and starting again now that I have a recording going, welcome to today's webinar with Art Barter. We're so glad that you're here, and it seems like we've got lots of people calling in from all across the United States. We've got friends in Milwaukee and Tennessee and Kentucky, and a bunch of callers from Canada. We have our friends at Team TSI in Albertville, Alabama. We have Florida, New Jersey, Missouri, Illinois, Arizona. I saw Scotland. We have a group from the First Liberty Bank in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Philadelphia, Minneapolis. We have some friends lots of friends in Canada. Wow. So thank you so much for choosing to invest this hour in learning about servant leadership today, and we're so thrilled that you're here. A few things I want to let you know as we're getting started. We have some tremendous slides, and we will share these as a PDF after the session in our follow-up materials. As I mentioned, the recording, we are recording today, and we'll be sharing the recording after in case you would like to share it with others. We would also love to invite you to live tweet today. If you're a fan of social media, you can share the most resonant ideas of today's event using the hashtag servant leadership, and we invite you to do that. And I'll tell you, sometimes I even multitask and retweet the things that you're sending out during the event as well. So we invite you to live tweet if you would enjoy that. I also want to mention that part of the reason for today's presentation is that we are celebrating the launch of Art's most recent book, The Servant Leadership Journal. Beautiful cover. And this is an 18-week journey that will help you transform yourself in your organization. And we're going to be covering the concepts from the journal in today's webinar. And at the very end of the webinar, after the Q&A, I'm going to tell you how you can win one of 5 free copies of the journal that we're going to be sending out to some of our attendees today. So I encourage you to stay on until the end. I encourage you to share your questions throughout today's event, and we'll have some time at the end to go over those questions with Art. So I think I covered all the details, but if you have some questions, feel free to put those in the question panel. And now I'm going to pause for a moment and introduce our guest, Art Barter. Art is the founder of the Servant Leadership Institute, which is located in Carlsbad, California, and he's also the CEO of Datron. Datron is a manufacturing company based in California that Art acquired back in 2004, and he's implemented this transformation process of going from a traditional model of leadership to a servant leadership model, and it's been a tremendous journey for him, and he's seen tremendous results in terms of the success of his organization. I personally have been so inspired by meeting Art and learning from him, and even hearing about the generosity that this profitability that comes from implementing servant leadership has allowed him to have in the world. And so, Art, I'm thrilled to welcome you today. I'm going to turn my camera off, and we're going to learn from you. We really appreciate your investment in teaching us today.
Great, thank you, Becky. Great to be with you. Thank you for everyone at Weaving Influence. You've done a great job in getting us ready for this. So, thank you everyone for joining us today. It's exciting times. It is a kickoff for the Servant Leadership Journal, and it's a tool that really helped me transform my leadership behaviors. And we'll get into some of the behaviors here in just a minute. But a little bit about Datron. We did buy Datron World Communications in 2004. And decided in 2005 to implement servant leadership. And after about 5 or 6 years of implementing and seeing some great successes, what we found was there wasn't a whole lot of folks out there who were teaching companies on how to implement servant leadership. A lot of companies would teach how to teach servant leadership, but not to implement. And we had that experience, so we were encouraged by others outside of Datron to start sharing what we knew about implementing servant leadership. I'm the CEO of Datron. I've been the CEO ever since we bought it. I've been on the front lines of implementing servant leadership. I know what worked for us. I know what didn't work for us. And I just want to share and maybe keep you from making some mistakes that I made in implementing servant leadership. So we founded the Servant Leadership Institute for that purpose only, and to share what we know. And that's what we do. We also have a charitable fund. We give back to the communities that we do business in and the communities that our employees come from. We're a multicultural company. We have employees from around the world, and we give back 10% of our operating profits every quarter into a fund, and we let employees determine where that money goes. We don't take any grant requests from outside. Our purpose at Datron is to positively impact the lives of others. And so the best way for us to engage our employees in doing that is letting them give money back to organizations that have helped them. And it's been just an amazing, amazing thing to watch. What's on employees' hearts and where they want to go. So that's the exciting part for us and for me. And so let's get on to what is servant leadership. It really is a set of beliefs. Next slide, please, Lori, if you would. A set of principles and behaviors. And it really is a behavior issue that we want to try and get people to look at differently. I can talk all I want about leadership. I can talk about whatever I want to do. If I don't follow it up with behavior that's consistent and showing people what I want to do, I'm not going to get anywhere. And what I've learned is behaviors is where everything hits the road. At Datron, we decided to define servant leadership as we want to inspire and equip those we influence. Now, you notice we didn't say those that report to you, because we believe everyone is a leader. Everyone influences someone in their life. And we believe that we need to inspire and equip everyone that we influence. And so we encourage our leaders here to make sure that we're inspiring people with purpose, with values, with mission, giving them stories from our customers from overseas on what our product does to help them, and then giving them what they need in order to serve the customers. And that's what we do. So we inspire and equip those we influence. So let's move on to the 9 behaviors, if you will, Lori. Next slide. I'm sorry, flip the org chart. This was one thing that Ken Blanchard challenged me in my controlling leadership style. I met Ken back in 2003, and he's been a great mentor for me over the years, a great friend. He was just with us at our recent conference. But he said, Art, here's what you need to understand. The traditional org chart has the CEO at the top of the chart. What you need to do in order to have someone to serve is you need to take that org chart and turn it upside down and put you at the bottom of the chart. So you have someone to serve. If you're at the top of the chart, you don't have anyone to serve. Now, in organizations, we do have people to serve, and we have shareholders, and we have investors, and we have markets and customers. But we're talking about inside the company. Who do you serve inside the company? And when you turn that upside down, your employees' engagement goes through the roof. Your performance goes to the roof. And I will share with you, we had no idea the amount of profit and the records we would set when we implemented servant leadership. We just hoped to improve. And we just blew record earnings, record revenue, record cash flow. We blew records out of the water when we turned this upside down. And so I'd encourage you to think about that a little bit differently. Turn your org chart upside down. At Datron, I don't publish an org chart. We're a private company. I don't have to publish an org chart, and I don't, because I want people to be able to go to anyone at any time to get what they need to serve the customers. I don't want them to go up an org chart and down an org chart in order to get approval to talk to someone who's 2 or 3 cubicles away from them. I want them to stand up, be able to talk to each other, serve the customer, and then let management know what they've done to help the customer. And one of the greatest examples of that is Southwest Airlines. They let their employees take care of their flyers. They don't have to report back and get permission. And so that's what we try and do at Datron. So next slide, please. Lori, next, there we go. The 9 behaviors. Serve first, build trust, live your values, listen to understand, think about your thinking, add values to others, demonstrate courage, increase your influence, and then live your transformation. Now, if you look at these are built on a bridge in the image that we have, because there are steps on the bridge that we're going to build. You have to make your mindset first to serve first. Then you have to build trust with yourself and with others. You have to be able to live your values, and people need to see that you're going to live your values. You have to be able to listen to people and what they're telling you. Then you have to be able to reflect on it and take in what they're telling you as a leader and who you want to be. Now you're ready to go add value to others. You can't go right to adding value to others. You have to go through those steps. And so these are in an order for a reason. And we've found great success within our Datron companies in building upon these steps. So let's get into the first behavior, serve first. Now, this is a mindset for leaders. Now, when I was in the control and command leadership position, My first job, I'm a finance guy and an operations guy. I was given a job in my late 20s as a controller. They actually gave me the title of controller. And I took my job very seriously. I controlled people. And I thought that was my job to make people do what I thought they should do. And I thought I was a pretty good leader in doing that. Now, I had good relationships with people. I wasn't a bad guy. I wasn't demanding and pounding on tables. But I also could clear a conference room in about 2 minutes when I was on a roll and wanting to get what I wanted to get. And I need to understand that there was a better way to motivate people to get things done. And so I had to change my mindset. It wasn't that I wanted to be a leader for myself. I wanted to be a leader for other people. And so if I want to be a great servant leader, I have to think of things for the sake of others. Am I willing to step out and serve them and inspire them and equip them in helping what they do for real? And I mean for real. That means your motives have to be pure. They can't be, I just want to do this to get results. They have to be, hey, how can I help the person? What we found is servant leadership, when you take that mindset, you're going to impact people not only in their work life, but in their personal life. And guess what happens when people are happy in their personal life? They're happy in their work life. And everything comes together. And so we try and help leaders understand that when you serve others first, you're really helping them through the unfolding of their life events. The unfolding of life's events. They're going through things that impact their work performance. And if we help them through that, we help them understand it, and we help them improve, hey, that's great, it helps us perform. We have to be invited into that. I will tell leaders that are on the call, you have to be invited in to help people with their personal life. But I will tell you that if you help people understand what servant leadership is in their day-to-day work, they work 5 days a week, 40 to 60 hours a week with you, that's going to roll over into their personal life. And we've seen this in our own implementation where people have taken what we've taught them and they take it into their families. And we've seen their relationships with teenagers change, relationships with their spouses change, relationships with their friends and their peers change, because they're not thinking of themselves first. Now, just keep in mind, if you want to be the leader that a servant leader needs to be, always think of, what can I do for the sake of another person? How can I help them? How can I inspire them? Part of our job as a leader is to make sure we're talking about the purpose of the company all the time. People have to understand why you do what you do. They have to understand that. If they don't understand why you do what you do, and they don't understand how the values of the company support that, they're not going to get excited about where the company's going. And it's fun for us to go into companies, and I'll walk in a conference room and we'll see pictures of what the company does. And one company was a defense contractor, and I said, what do you see here? A group of managers, what do you see here? And only one person said freedom. All the others said, no, it's a piece of equipment here, it's a piece of equipment there. One person said freedom. And they wanted to be the trusted supplier to create freedom around the world. Only one of their managers knew what that purpose meant. So if you're a leader and you want to serve first, make sure they understand your purpose. Make sure that you're talking about your values all the time, and they understand how your values integrate with your business, and then help them understand their own values. When we work with companies, it always amazes us that people can't list off their top 5 values personally. We have to help them through that. And so help them through that. And more than likely, you're going to find that the values of the company and the values of individuals in your company, especially leaders, are going to match up. And when they match up, that's when performance and happiness takes over. So think about it this way, always serve first. In our organization, we ask our people to think of other people first. And that's always difficult. We've got deadlines, I've got reports to write, I've got to get things done. How do I make sure people have what they need to do that on time and get my own work done as well? We'll talk about results in a little bit. So that's serve first, change your mindset. And it's a big change for leaders. It was a big change for me to go from a power controller position to a position of how can I help everyone in my organization be successful? And that changes your mindset quite a bit. It's not an easy mindset change. And journaling for me is what helped me make that change for me personally. And without it going through personally, you really can't get there as a leadership team. So think about who you serve, and then also think about who do you serve first in your organization. Who's the most important people to serve? And if you serve those people to be successful, 10 out of 10 times, the company's going to be successful. And you're going to see amazing, amazing results. So think about serving first. If you think of a waiter, everyone, when you say serving, you think of a waiter. And you think of a platter that they carry. Think about delivering a report that someone needs on a platter and saying, here, I understand you need this. Here it is. Go to it. And if there's anything else I can get for you, please let me know. Think of it in that terms. Now, you don't physically have to do that, but think about how you can deliver what people need and then ask them more questions on what else can I do for you? Help me understand what you need. Tell me more about what you need. And then embrace it, and then make sure everyone in the organization, especially your leadership team, is thinking about serving first as well. So that's the first behavior. Let's move on to the second behavior, build trust. Now, we work with individuals and we ask them to trust themselves first. Do you really trust yourself? You've got to look in the mirror in the morning. If you can look at the mirror and have a conversation with that person in the mirror, I think you have a pretty good chance of trusting yourself. If you avoid that conversation and you don't want to have it with that person in the mirror, I think you're going to have some challenges. And those challenges are going to be real tough to get through. So we want to build trust with ourselves. We want to build trust with others. And then we want to build trust with everyone in the corporation. I had to start building trust first with my leadership team. And that was the area that we didn't trust each other. And what we love to do, and I learned this from Stephen M. Marcovey, is you ask just a couple of questions in your organization. A trust index. Do you trust your boss? Do you trust management? Yes or no? And then for us, we added one more within the leadership team. Do you trust each other? And what we found out is the leadership team trust index was the lowest of all three. So we started to work on the leadership team first. Build trust. Our job as a leader is to put our hand out first, not to wait for someone to come to us, but we invest our time in others to build that trust. So are you willing to extend that trust to other people, or are you just going to sit back and wait for them to come to you? If you're a true servant leader, you have to take that first step. So our next behavior is live your values. As a leader, you have to understand what your values are. And what we like to say is you need to behave your talk. Not walk your talk, but behave your talk, because it's all about behaviors. Make the decisions that you're going to live your value and your values, and you're not going to compromise your values. At Datron, our first value is our families come first. Our last value is we don't compromise our values. Because once you start compromising your values, guess what? Your purpose doesn't mean anything. And when you start compromising those values, it makes it very, very difficult. Find out what your values are, and then live them. And that, again, gets back to the journaling aspect that really helped me understand these are the values I really hold close to my heart. And then these are the values that are really close to my heart in the company. How can I match those together and then put those in place in the company as a CEO? And it really does make a difference. So live your values. Find out what they are and live your values. Our next behavior is listen to understand. So next slide, please. Do you talk more than you listen? And we don't say just listen. We say listen to understand. And that means that most leaders need to get rid of this little device, turn it off. You know how to turn it off, or you just need to know how to put it on vibrate. This side turns it off, this side's vibrate. Turn it off so that you can listen to people. You can't multitask while you're listening. But listen to understand, and ask these two questions when you do. Tell me more and help me understand. Those are the two most powerful questions you'll have when you really want to listen to understand. Tell me more and help me understand. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Guess what? We're supposed to listen more than we speak. And as a power leader, that was one of the things that really challenged me, is I always had the right answer. I always wanted to tell someone what they needed to do to get where they wanted to go. As a servant leader, I had to stand back and listen to people and then think about what they told me and then go implement. And that's a real challenge. So listen to understand. Our next one is take that information that you're listening to, and our next slide, please, is think about your thinking. Think about what you were told. Go reflect. Go find that quiet place that you can sit down and go, okay, this is the type of person I am. This is the type of leader I am. I want to change who I am. This is where I want to go. Who do I need to go listen to? Who do I need as a mentor? Who do I have to that will help me get that done? I've had a great mentor in Ken Blanchard. He's a great mentor for me. John Maxwell mentored me for a couple of years. He gave me a lot of insight. And Stephen M.R. Covey is just an unbelievable guy in trust and helped me amazingly. So, but I had to take that feedback from them, and I had to go think about what I was being told. So spend some time reflecting. Close your door in your office this week. I'll challenge you for 15, 20 minutes. Turn everything off, your computer, your lights, so nothing electronically can get through to yourself, and spend some time thinking about yourself. The first time you do that, if you're not used to it, it's going to scare the dickens out of you. It will scare you because it's just you and your thoughts. But it will get easier as you go. And now I reflect more today as a leader than I've ever had in my career. And I look for those times to go spend time. I live by the beach, which is a great place to go. We've got mountains here, but I've got places all over, work here in different parks where I can go and just think about who I am and where I want to go. So are your thoughts about yourself or others holding you back? What's happening with your thoughts? Our next behavior, once you get done about thinking about your thinking, your next slide, please, is add value to others. I think now you're ready to go add values to others. If you decided who you serve, if you built some trust, if you decided to listen to understand, and live your values, now you're ready to add value to others. If you didn't go through those 4 steps, you're not ready to add value to others because they're not going to receive it, because they know it's not from the right motive and the right heart. So are you a person with consistently adds value to other people, or are you just doing it so you can get results, so you can look good to your bosses? Are you really want to help them get better? Do you really want to help them through the unfolding of their life's events and add value to them? Or is it just about getting results? And as a power leader, for me, every quarter I had to get results, and that's what it was all about. I didn't care about the people. I didn't care how I got it. And I went through that period. I finally got tired of working in a corporate world where corporations don't care about you and they don't care about your family. They don't care. Now, there are companies that care, and there's good companies out there. Some of the ones I work for, they didn't care about us. They just cared about getting results. And every quarter was, this is what it's all about. So add value to other people. Next slide, please, Lori, if you will. After we add values to others, then we're got to demonstrate courage. We have to go out and say, okay, I'm going to invest time in people. And I talk to leaders and they say, well, my door is always open. I'm going to tear the door off and throw it away. All right, because I hate that. I dislike it. Let's back up. I hate it, but I dislike it. If you're a true leader and you want to demonstrate courage, then go invest time in people in one-on-ones. Put them in your calendar. Go talk to them in environments that's easy for them to talk to. Go create an environment where you're going to be able to listen and understand. They're going to be able to tell you what they need to tell you. Demonstrate courage in serving is a big one, because in this world of it's all about results and it's all about every month and every quarter, how do you take time to serve? And how do you take time to change your transformation? And I'll tell you, that's a tough thing to do. But if you do it, the rewards are unbelievable, because your life will change. And the people around you will see that you've taken the courage to take that step to get better. And the people around you are going to go, wow, Art's really serious. And the people that you love are going to go, wow, I really love this person. I really love this person, because they have a different mindset. They want to go help people and not just get things from people. Are you willing to make those tough decisions? Are you willing to stand up to your values? When someone wants you to compromise your values, are you willing to walk away from business? We walked away from business on several occasions because we were asked to backdate documents or represent something that we weren't. We walked away from it. And in one country, the customer came back to us 5 years later, and now we're prime on a major contract that was probably going to be worth around $20 to $25 million. The original contract we walked away from was $6 million. So you're going to build trust with your customers by walking away and not violating your values. And so have the courage to do it. And it takes a lot of courage to be a servant leader these days in this environment, especially in this everything's got to be done this second, and everything's got to get results. So demonstrate some courage. Next behavior. Now, once you've been through all that, now you have a chance to increase your influence. You can't decide to serve first and then go decide to increase your influence, because people are going to look at you. They're not going to trust you. You haven't earned their trust by listening. You haven't added value to them. You haven't helped them, get things better in their life. Once you get through that and people start to realize Art's really serious about this. It's not the latest fad. It's not the latest thing you read in a business magazine and what he's going to implement. He's really serious. Now I can increase my influence. And most of the time, it has to do with people who want more time with me, who want to learn and help. How can I be that better leader? How can I do that? So are you willing to get rid of all your hidden agendas on why you ask people to do things and why you invest in people? And are you really just to go, hey, I want to invest in you. I want to increase my influence with you, but it's from a heart. It's from a service standpoint, not from this is what I want to get from you. And so when you increase your influence with others, you're not going to be able to do it until you've gone through every other behavior. And once you do, people are going to want your time. They're going to be able to listen, and they're going to have an open heart. They're going to have an open mind, and you're really going to be able to help them be a different leader and a different person. And I will share with you, when you really get to this point, you're going to hear stories about employees' personal lives, or in our case, along with the personal stories, we have stories about the organizations they were able to help out through the charitable fund. We get feedback from the stories that have changed lives. And about a year ago, I met a group from an orphanage in Vietnam that one of our employees has been supporting. And they came to the United States. And you would have thought I was a rock star, because we didn't invest a lot of money. It was maybe $5,000, $10,000. But in their country, that got them a new kitchen. It got them a new home. It gave everybody new clothes. And you've got to understand, $1,000 here goes so much farther in people's lives. And I was so warmed by that, because they were very, very thankful for someone's help from a different country. And it was given, and it was given without any strings. It wasn't, we didn't expect anything in return. We don't go out and publicize what we do. We just want to increase our influence by helping people. And if we can help people, those people are going to go help people. And so that's the influence that you have. The last one, and probably one of the most difficult one, behavior that we have. Next slide up, Lori, please. Live your transformation. Now, I've gone through all this stuff, and do I really want to live my transformation as a leader? And here's the story I love to tell. Sometimes you might be walking down the hallway to go to someone's office or go to a meeting, and you see another employee coming to you, and you know that employee is going to ask you, or they're the type of person that goes, everything that's wrong with the company, that's what's going to come out of their mouth when you ask them how they're doing. You say, hi, how you doing, Art? And then you get everything that's wrong, everything that doesn't make sense. You're doing this all wrong, Art. You need to be doing this, 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 and this. Now, sometimes we like to go and we're having a little problem with power here. Well, I hope SDG&E isn't doing us some. We're going to continue. It's a struggle when living your transformation, because you've got to treat everybody the same. And when you meet that person in, okay, guys, I think we're back. Okay, maybe not. Okay.
Hey, Art, we can hear you, and I do see that your lights are flickering there, but I think if you keep going, we should be okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I think something's going on with SDG&E here. But that person that you ask how you're doing, and you really want to avoid them, because you know they're going to suck the life right out of you if you ask that question. You ask the question anyway and you say, hey, listen, I don't have time to talk right now, but I'll circle back to you in a couple of days. And I really want to hear what you have to say. And you can engage them. Living your transformation is easy with people that you agree with. It's easy with people that are on board with you. It's very difficult with people who aren't on board with what you're doing, or they don't believe in servant leadership and a different way of leading. And you have to treat them the same way, just like you treat the people you like. And if you're really going to live your transformation as a servant leader, you really need to treat everyone and serve everyone the same. You can't pick and choose who you want to serve or not. Depending on how many people you have in your organization, you have to serve everyone the same way. You don't get to pick and choose. You don't get to stay away. And when people need your help, you need to live your transformation. Now, I will tell you, this is the most interesting part and most difficult thing that I had to do as CEO is to understand that people transformed their beliefs and behaviors in servant leadership at different rates. Some will latch onto it and transform faster than others, but the trick for the CEO or the person in charge is you have to still get results. Your organization still has to survive. They can't put results on hold for 6 months while you're transforming your leadership and your culture. You still have to get results. Understand that people are going to change at different rates, and you as a leader have to manage that. And when you manage it correctly and understand it, you're going to be able to get better results. Keep this in mind, that if you continue to see progress, if someone's trying and you continue to see progress, they're worth investing more time with. Don't give up on them. If you're not seeing any progress, and if they're not buying into what you're doing and you're trying to change a culture, then you have to make a decision. And our job then is to help them find a company where they'll be accepted and help them go with someone else. If they're really just not really great people, share them with your competition. Let your competition have them. Living your transformation is probably the toughest thing that I had to learn in understanding how our leaders transformed at different speeds and investing in the individual and then also investing in the team. We were able to get results because people were just amazing. And the transformation is very, very manageable. Just don't be afraid of it. Just don't expect everyone to be at the same level that you are or the same level as the fastest one in your organization, because they will be different, and you have to manage that differently. So keep that in mind. We like to challenge our employees. If you have something and you know someone else needs it, share it with someone. Don't wait for the memo. Don't wait for the request. If you know they need it for a proposal, give it to them. And if you need something, go ask for it. And don't go through the org chart. Like I said earlier, we want people to go, about anything, about any time to anyone, so they can get what they need to get their job done. Now, that's real difficult in some organizations. In a private organization like mine, I can do that. And I've seen amazing results when you don't make people go through the org chart to get what they need. And a lot of organizations, to go through the org chart, it's like 2 months. Why waste the time to serve your customers for 2 months when you can get it in 2 hours? So think of things differently when you think of transformation, all right? So let's talk about the journey and the takeaways that I had in learning about implementing servant leadership. The takeaways for me individually was journaling really helped change my mindset. I get to go back and look at some of the journals I wrote early on, and I get to see how far my mindset has come. Here's how I thought back then. Here's how I thought halfway through the process. Here's where my thinking is today. It gives me a basis to improve, but it also gave me the ability to write down what I was thinking and the challenges I was having. That's basically, here's the challenges, and what do I want to do about that? What do I want to do, and set some goals to change my own self as a leader. And that was my time with myself, was in my journal. Now, I would encourage you, I found for me, it didn't work to journal on a computer because I had to figure out where all the files were. And if you're like me, you've got a computer at home, you've got a computer at work. It really helped me to write. And it slowed down my thinking. It slowed down my typing. And when I sat down and wrote, I actually thought about what I was thinking, and then I was able to write it down. It keeps you from writing a book on yourself because your hand gets tired. All right, so instead of typing a bunch of words, sit down and write a few words that really mean something to you, and listen to what people have to say. Write down what people said about you. I had to find out I wasn't a great listener, and I found out from my team. And when I went home and told Lori, my wife, I wasn't a great listener, she said, "Tell me something I don't already know." And that was confirmation that I needed to change my behavior of listening. I didn't like getting that confirmation because I wanted her to tell me that everybody else was wrong, but I had to listen to and understand what people were telling me in order for me to take that away. Journaling helped me do that. Learn from good mentors. Get some good mentors around you. They can be in your company. They can be outside your company. They have to be someone you trust. They have to be someone that understands servant leadership, will help you do that. Go find yourself a good mentor. You don't have to pay for them. Most of the people that mentored me, I didn't pay any of them. And if you get out and create some relationships, you're going to get people to help you in amazing ways. So learn from good mentors. And then allow that time for transformation. You're not going to get to the point where you're going to check a box off and say, I've now arrived as a servant leader. Allow that time for transformation, both for yourself and for your team. And so the next takeaways that I learned through the process, next slide please, Lori, is what are the takeaways that I learned about my team? Transformation occurs at different speeds, as I've been talking about. Understand that people are going to change at different paces. Some will be fairly rapid, some will be fairly slow. You can still get results while you're doing that. You still have to perform as a company. You still have to perform. If you don't perform, you're going to go out of business. So you can't put your company on hold for 6 months to a year while you change your leadership thinking in the organization. You still have to get results. So part of the process is you still have to focus on those results while you're focused on changing your culture. It's doable. It is doable. And servant leadership, I think, is a lot easier than implementing any other leadership belief because it's from the heart. And once you start talking from the heart, people are going to jump on that and they're going to move forward in big, big ways. Remember this, and this was the biggest takeaway for us. How you get the results is more important than the results themselves. How do you get those results? Are they in accordance with your values? Are they in accordance with your purpose? Do people feel good about the decisions you're making as a leader? Do they feel good about the direction of the company? Are they being asked to violate their own values? Are they being asked to represent something to the customer that you don't have or that you don't plan to have just to get a sale? Are you willing to look at how you get those results being more important than the results themselves? When you focus on that, the results will follow, and they will be in multipliers that you won't even appreciate. Pre-tax for Datron, after about 7 years of implementing certainly pre-tax was running about 25%. That's pre-tax, not operating profit. That's pre-tax, 25%. We historically have been in the 10 to 12% range. So we doubled. We doubled by implementing servant leadership. And that's the takeaway. Focus on how you get the results, and the results will be there. So next slide, please, Lori. So here's how I remember my 9 behaviors. And this is a walk I do every day. When I get up in the morning, my wife, Lori, she loves to have a pot of coffee ready for her when she gets up. So the first thing I do, I ignore the cat, ignore me. I make a pot of coffee and serve her coffee. She makes our house a home. She takes care of me. If I can give her something back every morning, I give it back. So making a pot of coffee is my symbol of serving first. I get in the car, I drive past the school bus. I look at the schools today. We're doing some work with local school districts and helping them build trust in their kids from grade school to middle school to high school. We need to turn the trust around. We're raising kids that don't trust each other. That bus reminds me of building trust. When I get on the freeway, I have to live my values to get on the freeway, or I'm going to get run over. So I have to live my values. So getting on the freeway reminds me of living my values. When I get on the freeway and I'm settled in, I'll call my office in one of the offices on the East Coast, and I'll listen to them on the cell phone. The cell phone isn't really easy to communicate on, so I really have to listen to understand to hear what they're saying. The cell phone reminds me to listen to understand. Then I have some time between there and the time I get to work. I get to think about what my day is going to be like. I get to think about what I've heard so far. Think about the day before. Think about where I want to go. I spend some time thinking about my thinking. I drive in the driveway and I walk up to my front door. My front door reminds me, ask myself, who am I going to add value today? That door represents adding value to someone. So put a name on that door when you walk through it. I go up and talk to my assistant, Lisa, and she says, here's all the things you need to do. I say, I can't do all that stuff. And she says, yes, you can. And oh, by the way, those tough conversations that you've been putting off for the last 2 weeks, you're going to have them today, because it isn't fair to the people to put them off anymore just because you don't want to face them. So be courageous and demonstrate courage. And then after that, I think about who has been asking for my time, who wants some mentoring, who wants some coaching, who just needs a little bit of input on a situation within the company or a challenge that they're facing. That reminds me to increase my influence. And then every day, I ask myself, what's the best thing I can do as CEO for my company and the people in it to succeed? What's the best thing for me to be working on? Not the thing that I want to work on, but what's the best thing I can do to give back to my folks? And that's a journey I take every day, every morning, and all along the way, I've turned it into, this reminds me about my 9 behaviors. So find out what your journey is and then commit. And that's, I can talk about the 9 behaviors anywhere at any time because it's my journey every morning. And that's how I relate to it. So Becky, I think I'm going to take it back to you and see if there's any questions that we can answer for people today.
There are lots of questions, but my first question before I get to all the ones that have been coming in is how long is your commute? You have a lot that you are able to cover in that morning commute.
Yeah, well, it depends. If there's traffic, if no traffic, I can get to work in 30 minutes. If there's a lot of traffic, it's taking me an hour to 15. So it depends on how early I get out and which route I take. But
So for
it's
those
30 to 60 minutes, depending on traffic.
That's so funny. So for those of us who live in rural Michigan, I drive kids to school and I am in the car nearly as long as you, but the time between dropping off the last kid and coming to my office is about a minute and a half. So
Yeah,
I'm going to have to come up with a new way to live my journey.
Yeah, and that's what the journey worked for me is find out what you do every day and find out what works for you to remind. It may be your midday, it may be your end of the day, it may be your evening. But make it real to you what you do every day, and that's what really helped me. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, like I said, we do have quite a few questions, and the first one I want to ask, because it's one I wrote down myself, came from Amanda, and she's wondering, in your organization at Dagetron, how much time did the transformation from traditional leadership to servant leadership take? And
Yeah.
what could any other organization expect?
Well, we tried to find training for implementing servant leadership, and we couldn't find it, so we developed our own. Our training is a total of 45 hours. We break it into 3 modules, 15 hours each module, and we do it at 3 hours per session within each module. It took us about 2 years to train everyone in servant leadership once we got started, once we had the training developed. After our second module, before we developed the third, we went out and hired a PhD from Berkeley and said, help us evaluate how well we're doing or where we're falling short. We did a survey of everybody we trained. We got some feedback. What we found out during that time frame, because we did some research, is it's going to take you around 5 years to see leadership training really take hold in your organization. 5 years. If you go into a company and change the culture like we did, it's going to take you 7 years. And the greatest example we have is Cheryl Batchelder of Popeyes. She says, Art, your 7 years is right on. It took us 7 years from the time we started to the time we really started seeing great results. And so it doesn't happen overnight. And as leaders, we have to understand it isn't a 12-month process. It's not a 12-month process. It's a long-term commitment. And I'm not the servant leader I want to be yet. And so I still have a lot of maturing and learning and understanding to do. And I'm going to be doing that for a lifetime. So I'm never going to check the box and say I'm here. I'm never. So think about that. In our organization, I think we probably started seeing results in about 2 years. Maybe we got things really turned around in 3 to 4 years, but we spent 2 years investing in training everyone in the organization. Everyone got the same training. And so we invested a lot of time in training up front. And so that was the first 2 years. And then that investment really paid off, and we were able to see it happen a little bit sooner. Yeah.
So how would you measure that? So do you have any input on how you measured the results? So
Sure.
you obviously mentioned some financial results in terms of, increase in profit and all of that, but how would you measure the results leader by leader?
What I like to, how we did it leader by leader was we got open about talking about our shortcomings. And we did a 360 survey. We had 10 characteristics of a servant leader, and everybody in the leadership team surveyed everybody else and gave them results, including me as the CEO. That's where I found out I wasn't a great listener. And then we committed to enter into an improvement program. We took the 2 behaviors that we were rated the lowest on, and we said, hey, okay, here's what I'm going to do to get better in this area. And I had to present to the leadership team, this is what I'm going to do. And as CEO, I had to go first. Now, trust me, when I found out I wasn't a great leader, I wanted to change that so I could go last and not go first. But I still had to go first and show people that I'm willing to change my behavior. And so everybody got up and said, this is what I'm going to do to help change my behavior over the next month in these 2 behaviors. And we got to the point in about 4 years to where we actually had a little database where leaders would go in and write 2 things. Here's something that happened this month that was great in servant leadership. Here's an area that I had a challenge. And then when we got together in the leadership meeting, we'd have one or two people share who wanted to share. But the database was open to everyone. So if you wanted to sit down and see what people are facing, see the challenges they were facing, and hey, I'm having the same challenge. Now I know what leader to go to in the organization that was having that challenge, and ask them, hey, what did you do to help get that around? So we created a database that had people go in and write 2 things every month. Here's something that worked great. Here's something I'm still have a challenge with. And once you get that bonding going on with your leadership team, you get to talk about stuff pretty openly about behaviors, and you go, wow, 10 years ago we would never have said that in a leadership meeting ever. So
It seems like that would also keep you focused on that continual progress.
it does. But from a performance standpoint for the company, what we encourage people to do, don't create a new metric. Pick 1 or 2 metrics that you're already measuring and say, I want to improve this in the next year, and I want to improve it by this amount. Because if you're just creating new metrics and you're not improving the ones that everyone's looking at anyway, then it's not working. You've got to improve metrics you're already measuring. So take something that you're already measuring today, whether it's engagement, gross margin percentage for a manufacturing company, what your pre-tax profits are, what your cash flow are. Take that and set some goals to improve that. Don't create a whole bunch of new metrics that people have to learn. They'll discuss about how to measure them for 6 months. Take something you're already measuring and say, I'm going to improve this, this, and this, right? Yeah.
Got it. So I have a question from Myron, and this is one that I see in lots of our webinars. Everyone always wants to know how you can lead up. So suppose you're at a lower level in the organization and you want to see your organization adopt servant leadership principles. How can you lead up and influence that way?
It all starts with behaviors. It all starts with behaviors. Start living behaviors of a servant leader, and things will catch on, and people are going, hey, what's going on with Art? He's changed in this area and changed in this area, and he's getting results done. He's getting things done on time. I don't have to do a lot of rework on the reports he does. The work is coming out better. Change your own behavior first. Don't do it through your words. Do it through your behavior. And when behavior starts to change and you get results in your department or group first, then someone in the organization is going, what's going on with that group? I want to know what's going on, because all of a sudden they're now performing and the rest of the groups aren't. And you'll have your opportunity to spread the word on what you're doing. Then another department will come to you. And we see a lot of our clients where they'll start in a division, and then it will spread to multiple, because people want to know what's going on with it, because people are happy, they're more engaged, things are getting done, projects are getting done on time, they're under budget, and people are, oh, what's going on over there? And so start with yourself and start with where you are, and whatever you're given to do, go beat the deadlines. Go make it happen, and go do the best work you can. And guess what? You'll start influencing people through your own work and your own behaviors. Sooner or later, that will get to a CEO level or a senior executive level, and people are going, I don't know what they're doing down there, but we need to listen to them. And if you have someone in the senior leadership team that's just a power leader and they're never going to change, can you live with that? Can you work in that environment, or do you really need to find somewhere that really shares your values? And then that's a decision you have to make. But start with yourself and your own behaviors. Yeah.
Sure. Well, a great question from Jay. Jay is wondering, Art, how often you're talking about servant leadership in your meetings and ongoing interaction. He mentions that he sees values posted, but not necessarily lived out consistently in interacting across an organization.
Yeah, I talk values and purpose all the time. We share financial results with everybody in the company. I mean, everybody. We do all hands meetings. I talk about the purpose all the time. But I think what helps cement it is when we have a story of a customer where we really impacted a life. And we're in a military communications business, so we have opportunities to share where we save lives. And when we share those stories back with the people within the organization, now they become real, and now they can latch on to the purpose. So if you have stories out in the marketplace about your company that are favorable, make sure you're sharing with people and let them know what's going on. Because the stories are what's really powerful. It's really powerful. Most of the time, what we try and do with meetings is we try to start off with a servant leadership story. At SLI, we're talking servant leadership all the time. At Datron, sometimes we rush in and get into the meeting before we remember, hey, we got to talk about a servant leadership story. And when we have all hand meetings every month, we ask people to share in the all hands meeting. Hey, 1 or 2 stories about servant leadership, and yesterday we were in one of those meetings, and the guy told a story about he had a flat tire, and he tried to find some stuff to take care of it, and he was having difficulty. He came in to make a phone call, and he went out, and he had 4 guys around his car changing his tire for him. Didn't ask him to do it, but and that story is going to go, hey, this is what servant leadership is all about. So the stories are very, very powerful. Yeah.
I love that, sharing stories. So back to the Datron story, how much of your leadership team was on board with making the change from traditional leadership to servant leadership? And how did you get that alignment established starting out?
Sure. I tried for about a year to get people lined up. I thought as CEO, when I announced that we were going to be a servant-led organization, that we would be a servant-led organization. Everybody would get in line. After about a year of trying, I looked back and I had a handful of people behind me, but I didn't have all of them. And I probably would say 80% of them were waiting to see if it was the latest and greatest fad, management fad, and that I was going to get tired of it and go on to something new. And I decided at one point in time in an offsite meeting that I had to transfer ownership to this culture, to my management team. And when I decided to do that, I had them go off and say, I want you to go off for the next hour in 3 different groups. Tell me what the 10 behaviors of a servant leader should be. They came back and everyone presented their 3 lists. I said, get it down to 1. They came back and the leadership team said, these are what we believe a servant leader should be. I let them define those characteristics. I didn't participate in that. And then that's when we did the 360. And when I look back, I think that's when I transferred ownership of this culture change to the leadership team, because I let them determine the characteristics. I let them say, hey, this is what we think it should be. And I stepped back and let my beliefs go by the wayside. And so I had an opportunity to look at, here's what they think today. Here's where I want to go. How do I get from here to there? And that now is something I have to do as a leader, not as a group. But that day is the day I transferred ownership of the culture change to the leadership team. And I think that's when things really started to take off, is when they were given that ownership. So really think about what you're doing as a leader. Have you transferred ownership to your leadership culture, to your leadership team? Or are you still holding it back and just telling people what to do? Yeah.
That's really powerful. And it also demonstrates that value of servant leadership, of serving others by involving them in the process.
And it's hard. Power leader, I just want to tell people what to do. I had to change my mindset. So yeah, it was hard. I probably went through about 4 tongues during those couple of days where I had to bite my tongue off and then sew it back on. So it was tough, yeah.
So this question I love, it's from Teddy. He says, how can I continue to practice servant leadership with my sales team without enabling behavior that does not teach them to think and solve problems for themselves?
All right, if you're a tennis player and your employee serves up that tennis ball back to you, hit it right back to them. Hit it right back to them. Don't latch onto the tennis ball and hold on to it. And as we were transforming, we had leaders who would say things like this: you know what, I'm going to let you go to the meeting and represent me or represent my organization, but I want you to copy me on everything that happens in that meeting. I want you to keep me posted of what's going on. And what that was represented was, I want to extend trust to you, but I really don't trust you because I want you to keep me in the loop. But I want to be able to undo the decisions that you made in there. And we had one group that had a leader like that, and it actually became a little bit of a joke that when people came from that organization to sit in the meetings and they made decisions, everybody sit back and go, we need to wait a couple of days because their leader's going to change. They're going to change the decision. And so don't have people copy you on everything. You don't need to be copied on everything. You've got your strategic stuff you need to be focused on. You've got the things that you want your team to perform on. You don't need to be copied on every email that goes on within your organization. Trust your people to let them go do their work and help them go do their work. Inspire them and equip them. Don't look over their shoulder. And that's hard for a power leader. I want the entire email string. Send me all the email strings so I can look from the bottom up. I don't have time to do that anymore. If you send me an email string that has more than 1 page on it, I don't read it, because it's not worth my time to go invest in that, because it's not the best thing for me to do as a leader for the company that day, is to read every email string that I get. I just don't do it anymore. And I used to go through everything. So I hope did that answer the question a little bit? I might have a little follow-up there.
Yeah, feel free to follow up.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to wait and see if the person has any follow-up, but I think that was
Right.
really helpful. This is another similar question. So Sharita is sharing that she comes from an organization with a traditional model of leadership, and when she seeks to implement servant leadership in the team, she notices a lack of respect, that they treat her more as a peer and then try to shift the workload to her. So what recommendations do you have? I think a big question a lot of people have is, if I'm a servant leader, are people going to walk all over me? So any suggestions on how to have accountability and boundaries while serving others?
You still have goals. You still have to be accountable for your actions. You still have to be accountable for your work. You have to get results. You don't get to put that on hold. So just because you're going to be a servant leader doesn't mean you get to put all this other stuff on hold. It's still a requirement. You have to tack on servant leadership on top of it, not to replace it. So change that mindset that it's all encompassing. And it's not I can do this or I can do this when it comes to servant leadership. It's I want to do servant leadership and I want to be able to get results. I want to be able to apply it to what you're doing. And it's not an either or. It really is an overlapping. It encompasses everything because as leaders in organizations, we have to get results. If we don't get results, we'll get replaced. And if the company doesn't get results, we'll go out of business. And so you still have to get that. It's just how do you get there? Focus on how you get the results rather than the results themselves. So don't tell people I want you to do a 15% growth next year. I always tell my people I'm not going to tell you how much to grow. Let our customers decide how fast we're going to grow with their checkbook. If we do our job and serve them, they're going to come back to us for business. And so I'm never going to put an arbitrary thing and you have to go do this, this, and this. That's difficult in today's world. I'm able to do it because I'm in a private company. In a public company, that's a little bit different. But take your goals and go accomplish them and beat your deadlines. And you're being a servant leader by beating your deadlines. You're not being a different type of leader by beating your deadlines, but do it the best you can. Treat everyone with dignity and respect that you come. Even when you're not treated with dignity and respect, reply with dignity and respect. And now you're becoming a servant leader just in the way you're talking to people. All right? And you're going to have more influence that way than you will in anything else you say as a leader. Yeah.
Thanks. So Lori, if you could show us the next slide, we're going to formally wrap up our hour together, but I want to make sure everyone on the call knows about the great work that the Servant Leadership Institute is doing in the world. And Art himself is available to do speaking and training within organizations. So when I send our follow-up information later, I'm going to let you know who to get in contact with if you'd like to hire Art and bring him to speak in your organization. I do want to call out that SLI offers amazing trainings, webinars, workshops, conferences. In fact, the annual conference just passed a couple of weeks ago. There's lots of great resources on their website, and so I would encourage you to visit and find out more about that. Also, if we can see the next slide, again, we held this webinar today in part to celebrate the launching of the Servant Leadership Journal, which can take you through these 9 behaviors and help you with these reflection and journaling that Art recommends. If you're still listening, I would encourage you to email me webinars@weavinginfluence.com, and we're going to pick 5 of you who respond with some feedback about today's event to receive a free copy of the journal. So if you can email me webinars@weavinginfluence.com, we'll be so happy to share with a few of you this Servant Leadership Journal. I'm going to stop our recording and thank you, Art, for investing this hour with us. Art, thank you so
My
much.
pleasure. I had a blast. Thank you. Thank you, Becky. Yeah.
So for those of you who have